If you don't buy the JWard Show merch, dun dun dun, you are a dork.
This guy is, we ended up talking about 2 hours earlier today. He played Division I basketball. It was on his way to the NBA and decided, screw it, I'm going to New York to be a stand-up comic. His backstory is hilarious. And the minute I found out he got kicked out of a casino for ripping Donald Trump, I said, please come on my show.
John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce, now in all 50 states and in several retail outlets as well. So what we're doing today is we're walking through several of the hot sauces, and then we turn it over to this social media chef rock star, and he walks us through the sauces and then why you should buy. Don't forget atxhotsauce.com. All right, here we go.
We're on our third hot sauce now. And remember, heat builds with hot sauce.
What do you mean?
It builds. So we could do a very mild, and then a hot one and go all the way back to like almost no spice. But it'll taste spicy because the heat just builds and builds in your mouth. Kind of layers of capsaicin.
Oh, there's science, an actual science.
Sure, there's science. Yeah. Bill Nye, I'm sure, is all over this.
Okay.
The next one is the juice. This is our original. It's made with habaneros, coconut, turmeric, and pineapple. One of the best sellers that we have. It's called the juice. I highly recommend trying this one out. If you get a box set, make sure it includes this.
Yeah, I've had that. This one's
really good. All right, so this one is, that's a lot, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have to you want to wipe that off.
Let's try not to have the host cry if we can. All right, let's see. Name again for this?
The juice.
All right, the juice.
Going to be a little sweeter than the other ones.
Nice. Mm-hmm. I have had that. Well done. All right.
Are you trying yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. I wouldn't show. It's not going to show. As soon as that camera's turned off, I'll bawl like a baby.
Well,
but
when
not
you start
till
beating up, I'll know.
All right, atxhotsauce.com. I love this guy's work. John Laster is a hilarious comedian with a very cool backstory. He's a former Division I basketball star at Colorado State, but instead of going to the NBA, he did what all college basketball stars do. He left his home state of Colorado for a career as a stand-up comic in New York. It's worked incredibly well. You can see John on Comic View and Comedy Central's Premium Blend. You can also catch him on Flatbush Misdemeanors, the coolest name of all time for a show. That's on Showtime. He co-stars and produces an Amazon movie, One Bedroom. And on top of everything else, we'll spare everyone an hour of ranting about Donald Trump, but he shares my love and admiration for the man that is Donald Trump and his redneck followers. His love of Trump went so far, and we'll have to get him to tell this story, because he was once kicked off stage or out of a casino, which is pretty tough to do in Atlantic City, for a joke about Donald Trump. He's also created an app called BLAP. That's with 2 P's, right, John? And this is an app that guides you to Black-owned businesses near you. And on another day, another time, I'm going to let him explain the strategy behind this, because it's really brilliant. Great history. It's a brilliant idea. On Instagram, you can find him at He Was Funny. On Twitter, you can follow him at Real John Laster. John, thanks for doing this. I love your work.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. I don't know why I lost your picture. They have a bunch of pictures of me up in here now. But yo, man, thank you so much, brother.
Yeah, so we chatted briefly. Tell your quick Austin comedy story, because I didn't know this. I didn't know you had been hosting in Austin for a while. So tell your quick Austin story.
Yo, I did a show in Austin. These guys love me so much, man. These dope dealers, right? So they were like, we're going to fly you down every week, which was like, why not just get somebody in Austin? I mean, but these guys were making money hand over fist. I remember, what's so crazy is it was a hood room, but I remember one time I was late for the show. This is how hood the joint was, even though they were good people. And we are headed to the show. We pull into a gas station. This is how I knew what was going on. And they turned around to the back seat and they said, hey, John, if anybody puts Tide boxes in the trunk, don't worry about it. Right? I'm not even joking. So I couldn't make this up. I wanted to. So think of a NASCAR pit stop, right?
Yeah.
They pull up to the pump. They get out, go into the store. A Jeep Cherokee pulls up alongside of us, starts unloading boxes. And I'm talking about like 50 boxes into the trunk. They shut the trunk, the Jeep pulls off, and they get back into the car, and they said, "Hey, man, anybody put any Tide boxes in the trunk?" And I was like, and they said, "Never mind." It just pulled off, and I was like, "Okay, I see what's going on here." Yeah.
Was it a good crowd? I mean, was it a worthwhile gig?
Great crowd, beautiful crowd, man. And I'm not snitching either. They got locked up already.
Oh, okay. You got paid in cash, though, I'm sure.
Every time.
That's a pretty good jumping off point. So you go from Denver, you played at Colorado State, you pack up, like I said, you follow the ultimate NBA path. You say, screw that, and you go and become a comic in New York. I saw, it must have been a podcast interview with a few days ago, talking about, it may have been your first show, and the culture shock of being a stand-up comic in day one or day two. I don't know what it was. And I laughed. I related to this because it sounded like the hecklers, not hecklers in my business, but the hate mail I get is not, oh, I disagree with you, or that's not a good point, here's a better point. It's just, you need to die. And when you told that story, I thought that is exactly what happens to me.
Yes.
Right? It's not, that's not a good point. You're wrong about that. It's just die.
Yes. I remember working a show one time, and this woman comes on, she's got on a mink coat, right? And she's talking loud to her table. She's completely ignoring me. She's standing in the middle of the room on top of that. And normally people yell out, "Hey man, that's not funny," or
right.
"Oh, get to the jokes." Something you can hit back over the net. You know what I mean? But this woman, she's talking, and I said, "Hey, you're standing in the middle of the room, you're loud, there's a show going on up here." And I'll never forget, she's talking to her friends, and she was calm. She wasn't like, hostile. She just turned and looked at me and she said, "Fuck you, bitch." And I was like, oh my God. And the rest of the show had gone beautifully. That's what made it even worse. I was the only one who bombed. I don't have a comeback for, and then everything goes into slow motion when you're bombing.
So and you can appreciate this. So I call it kind of the bastion of stupid and hate talk radio, or hate and stupid. I'm not sure which one, right? It's the epicenter of hate and stupid. And so I did for 20 years to talk radio, and sort of as the Trump thing started coming, I mean, I heard it coming. I heard it because I could hear the followers, and I heard this thing coming even before I even knew what Donald Trump was about. But they're like that. They call in, want to debate, throw them off their game, and then it ends with, "Oh yeah, F you and die."
Yes.
Okay, that's a good one. And then it's one. It's that way all the way through it. There's no. Like I said, there's just no context.
Well, you know what it is? It's we're both athletes, right? Former athletes, Jeff. So it's kind of like the kid who would come to the park, right? And they would win a game or two, and then somebody good would get on the court and they start losing. They say, "You know what? Fuck that. I'll just take my ball and leave."
Right, I'm leaving. Yeah. Yeah. Or they hack you or shoot you, one of the two. Yeah. It's just not gonna it's not gonna end in any kind of meaningful way. It's just die.
Yes.
So what happened at the casino? I mean, I know the way it's reported, and the cool story is, oh, he did Trump jokes and they hated it, so that's the end of you. Is that really how it played out?
Yo, man, you know what's so crazy is I started on the Trump jokes. First of all, it wasn't even a political joke, right? First, I start off by saying, let's be honest, we can at least agree on this, right? I try to, someplace we can all agree. No one understood what his wife was saying for 4 years. Right? Imagine a black guy showing up with some woman no one could understand. Imagine what Republicans would say, how un-American that would be. Yeah. Right? Can you imagine if Michelle Obama had an accent that day? If Michelle Obama and they were interviewing her and they were like, "Hey, what do you think of your husband, Barack?" And she was like, "Barack is a good man." They would panic. Like, you know what? I don't think we should ask her anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all I said. And then some guy from the crowd, this is how I knew it was headed south quickly. This guy from the crowd, because I wasn't even talking about Hillary Clinton or Trump, or this guy from the crowd, he yells out, "Yeah, but Hillary Clinton is the devil."
Yeah, no,
it's like, oh, we're in trouble.
No, I mean, if you just stopped and said, "What's going to come next?" I could say, "I've talked to that person 700 times from some small town in Texas, and it's going to be, but Hillary." I mean, it's like my kids in the back of the car. The argument's it always ends up at that place.
Yeah.
So the casino operator wanted you out?
Yo, he asked me, I swear to God, they were like, hey, John, you think you could go out the back of the dressing room, man, through the kitchen? I'm not joking. because there's some people waiting for you outside. I'm like, dude, you are never going to get me to walk through some kitchen. I'm not walking through a kitchen to avoid people. Me walk through a kitchen, dude. I live in Bed-Stuy. I will slap the casino chips out of these people. So I go out the front door, and sure enough, this scooter gang is waiting for me, bro. You know, revving their scooters. And I was like, yo, it's tough to tell how fast a scooter's coming at you, Jeff. I don't know if you ever had somebody on a scooter because their head stays still. So it's really tough to tell how fast that scooter's coming at your ankles, man. So I'm walking through the kitchen, right? And yeah, anytime anybody who's ever walked through a restaurant or a casino kitchen, that's where all the hood dudes are. And the hood dudes know me from the hood circuit. They were like, hey, John, aren't you the comedian dude? Ain't you John Laster from Instagram? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, why are you walking through the kitchen? And I was like, it's a shortcut to my suite.
That's right. So the other thing that if they do any research on you, you get, I don't know if it would be the sort of Mount Rushmore of comedy shows, and you're a young guy. I don't know how far into your career you were, but you're hosting at a comedy club in New York. Is at the Comedy Cellar, and you're hosting, and your night is, among others, Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Amy Schumer, Dave Chappelle. Like in basketball terms, that's Bird, Magic, LeBron, and keep going, right? I mean, that is...
Oh, yeah.
That's remarkable. How did it come about? And you know, for a young comic like you, what's that like?
Yo, it was I'm a lot older than I look, you know, okay. Black don't crack, Jeff. But all those people actually weren't supposed to be on the show. And as a matter of fact, when the show started, said there's no way we could get them all up. And then we started the show. And to give you an example of how we knew we couldn't get them all up, I did all of the time that I'm supposed to do up top. If you knew you had all those people coming on the show, they'd be like, John, you better do 60 seconds and start bringing them on.
Right.
And then my buddy Ryan Hamilton was the first guy to go on. He destroyed. And, you know, Dave Attell, who's another legend, was also on that show. Right. And then Seinfeld went up, and then followed by Amy Schumer. Aziz Ansari was also on that show. And then after Aziz, Chris Rock, and then, Dave Chappelle, which was crazy. And then Dave Chappelle walks on stage and he says, hey, calm down. Cat Williams is next. He was just kidding, but.
But how does that work? I mean, you're doing whatever you're doing, and then somebody goes, hey, I'm Jerry. I want to go on now. I mean, how did you know they were going to show up, or what late notice did you get that they were going to come?
John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce, now in all 50 states and several retail outlets as well. So what we are doing is we are walking through 4 different hot sauces. So the social media rock star chef walks us through the sauces and why you should buy, using Jeff as the guinea pig. And holding up pretty well, I might add. So
we had 10 flavors. I could have been mean, but I thought I'd start out a little bit small.
Right.
You know, it's like starting with box wine instead of going
right,
to
so
Cabernet.
Remember, go to atxhotsauce.com. So we've walked our way through. We're at 4 now.
Beet heat, 5-pepper, smoked 5-pepper habanero, the juice. Now we're at honey bee hot.
Okay.
And the way we make this is pretty unique. We take garlic and we ferment it in natural honey for 3 months. So instead of using a saltwater brine for the fermentation, we actually use honey, which is one of the oldest fermentation techniques in like 10,000 years old. That's how they made mead. And we take the honey and the garlic, ferment for 3 months, and we take fermented habaneros and we blend that all together.
Okay. Does this go well with the Cabernet?
This does not go well with the Cabernet. So wine 101 is that we need to understand that hot foods don't go. Well, that's
yeah. Let's don't hurt the host here. A little bit lighter.
Okay.
All right. So what's this again? I'm about to
honey bee hot.
I think I've had this.
Okay, let's try.
All right.
Right up front, you'll get the sweet and the garlic.
Got the sweet big time. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Wow. Nice.
Yeah, isn't that good?
Nice.
Not too hot. Give it a second.
pretty hot.
It's pretty hot.
Pretty freaking hot.
Yeah, it's going to get you here in about a
You
minute.
think?
We'll probably don't have enough time for it to really get you.
You think it's going to get me in a minute? Not now?
Maybe in 30 seconds.
It may have just hit me now.
Yeah.
You're having a good time with that, aren't you?
I really am. I
fact
wish
that I'm a lot of pain
I wish
right
I
now.
brought the red ghost with me.
Well, on the front end, it's delicious.
Yes.
Now, a minute and a half in,
Your forehead's beating up just a
You
little
think?
bit. Yeah. Just a bit.
all right, that's atxhotsauce.com. I'm going to curl up in a ball now.
Very late notice, and they didn't all get there at the same time. You know, when we first started the show, I think Amy Schumer was sitting there. She was supporting David Tell around the corner, had just come to hang out. And then what happened was Jerry, who is rarely at the Comedy Cellar, you know, that guy travels a lot, happened to be there. And he's like, you know what? I want to, you know, he went downstairs to watch David Tell, because David Tell had gone on stage. He said, yeah, I haven't seen a Tell in a while. So he goes downstairs to watch him and decides he wants to do 5 minutes. So Jerry Seinfeld goes on, and Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle come downstairs to watch him.
Does
So
somebody
it
else
just kinda snowballed.
right? Does somebody else get bumped? You know, it's like getting subbed out of a game. You go
Oh,
tap some poor
everybody.
guy on the shoulder and say, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, but you got to go."
Once Jerry decided to go on, they just cleared the deck, because we already knew that Aziz was also going on stage. So between the two of them, you get David Tell, Jerry Seinfeld, and Aziz Ansari. That was a good enough show. But then Amy said she wanted to go on. Now, once Amy went on, it's already kind of international news. So she kind of forced Chris and Dave to go on the show. They were like, we're not going to miss out on this newsworthy happening. And then I got a phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning from Australia, because I had posted it on my Instagram and there's no cameras allowed in there. So CNN screenshotted my Instagram. It had wrapped around the world. And the first call came in from Australia like, hey, did that really happen?
Wow, that's good for you. Somebody told me, and I only laugh at this because somebody told me I don't know if you have crack jokes, or I don't know, because I don't know what crack is. But apparently I make regular references to crack. Like everything from cough syrup to Advil is just crack in my world. So I have no idea if crack even exists anymore. I don't know if people really do crack. But because I'm slightly out of touch, I guess, people have now mentioned to me several times, why do you talk about crack so much? You have no idea what it is. And I don't.
Crack was like a forest fire in the hood back in the day. And it's probably down to a match, you know? So it still exists. It still exists.
Okay, good.
But you probably have to do a little work to find crack now, man. You know what? I used to describe like cocaine and crack are, and ecstasy. I don't know. Ecstasy, man. You think of ecstasy, think of a 4-hour plane ride, like from New York to Denver. Once you pop that pill, you close the door, you're on that plane for 4 hours.
Okay.
I think cocaine is probably like the local. Do you know what I mean? Think of going the same 4 hours, but you do it 20 minutes at it. Every 20 minutes, the plane stops. Yes. Every 20 minutes, the plane stops. Crack is the Spirit Airlines of that local train. Yeah, it is. It is the Greyhound of getting high.
Okay, got it. Now I got a frame of reference. So, pretty lowbrow, I guess, is what you're saying. Crack.
Oh, you are going to be hanging with the dredges of the universe.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind the next time I make the reference.
Yeah.
So, when you're doing stand-up now, I mean, I feel myself getting sick of talking about Trump. I can't imagine in the comedy world, are the Trump jokes done? Is it just stale? Because I think his act is kind of stale, to be honest. He's there because he's an act. But I even think his act to his followers is pretty stale. The guy has no new material.
Yo, I think that for a lot, I mean, I still hear some comedians do some Trump stuff. I have stopped because, you know, in all fairness, and I know this is going to sound crazy. I hope no one just pulls this clip out and says, here's John defending Trump. In all fairness to Trump, he wouldn't act that way if people didn't think that way.
Right.
You know, it's not like Trump says these crazy things and then he got no votes. There's 70 million people out there that said, yeah, this guy called Mexicans racist, and he called good people on both sides, even though there were Ku Klux Klan members in this rally in Charlotte. You know what I mean? So But with all that being said, he's not the only one. You know, it's almost like I'm not even going to say that, but it's not. He's not out there alone. He is spearheading a movement of people who deem that acceptable. Who think it's okay to say that Muslims shouldn't be allowed in this country, who say that Mexicans are rapists, and he said, I guess some of them are good people, and who call Ku Klux Klan members at a rally with torches that they used to light crosses with. He called some of them good people who used to hang people like me for looking at a white girl and then cut our dicks off. And there's lots of people in this country who say, oh, I just want small. No, you don't want small government.
No.
Because you could have got that from Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
You could have got that from Jeb Bush. Exactly. You wanted something else. Yeah, exactly. So this notion of let's pretend, let's stop saying that it's this guy. It's not this guy with the clown hair, because that guy would rather be at a Snoop Dogg party than your Cracker Barrel.
Exactly.
He wouldn't be caught dead at a NASCAR rally. He'd rather be on a boat with Ice Cube. He hates those people.
He wouldn't let, I've said this many times. I mean, it's exactly my rant. He wouldn't let most of the people, those rallies and those wife beaters, like a Pabst Blue Ribbon, he wouldn't let them mow the lawn at his golf courses.
Hell no.
But he is. Here's my thing. And my original point was, is Trump stuff even funny anymore? But he's the foam middle finger from rural America to everyone else, even though he's not rural America. He'll say whatever that crowd claps for him. He's a prisoner of the audience. And I'm sure in comedy circles, maybe your whole existence is being a prisoner of the audience, but I think Trump is simply a prisoner of the audience in front of him.
Yeah. I don't think, but yeah, so for me, I have kind of moved on from the Trump joke. So if I take a shot, I want it to be at people who would follow that, not so much necessarily Trump, because he's not in the light anymore. But I do know colleagues of mine that still do Trump stuff. I just, right now, I would rather not.
It's weird. Do you think your basketball career helps you to be a better comedian, or there's skill sets? See, I think my football playing career helped me in my talk show career, because you learn this focus, right? You get in the game and you just let it go. You just let it go. People always go, oh, you got to focus. No, you just get in the game and muscle memory takes over and you let it go. You have to learn to not overthink anything.
Well, I think you're discounting yourself a tad bit, Jeff. And the reason I say that is I think that athletics does help us. But one of the reasons that it helps us, the only way you're ever going to be able to let it go is because you're prepared.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
You show up prepared. So I think that helps us. That paints a lot of the way that we approach things, that we know that if you didn't do the work, when it's game time, it's going to show.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, to follow up, train, let it go. Recover, train, let it go. I mean, that's sort of that's your existence when you're an athlete.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it also taught me that you can start off with something, completely not knowing how to do it at all. I only played basketball. True story, man. I was, my mother, the part of Denver that we lived in got bulldozed. Cabrini Green got bulldozed. The Wire in Baltimore, those areas there was a time in America that America had decided the worst area in your city, let's get rid of it, move people around so that we don't have people concentrated in one area. So that's where I lived in Denver. Crip walk and drive by. There's a song called Just Like Compton. And the last city they talk about is Denver. Like, you would never know that this was going on in Denver. So that's where I grew up, man. But I think that it paints our that sports at that level kind of colors everything that we do. I didn't want to play sports. My mom, because she didn't want me out in that environment, said, you got to play basketball. She buys a basketball. I take it outside. I hide it under a bush and pretended I was going to practice. My mom had 3 jobs. She worked a day job, a night job, and a weekend job. So I knew she could never come to the show. So, hey, Mom, I'm going to practice. I'd go hide the ball under a bush and then go do what I wanted to do. She didn't want me in that environment. One Saturday, my mom says, "Hey, I have off work. I can come to your game." Jeff, I had no idea what was going on with this basketball team. So I go to practice, right? Or the game, actually the day of the game. Luckily, like I said, I grew up in the hood. The coach is an alcoholic. He didn't know who was on the team. You know what I mean? So they're in the locker room and they're calling out jerseys. Who's number 12? Who's number 13? There's 15 jerseys. Who's number 14? Me. I grab the jersey, I put it on, I sit on the end of the bench. My mom's at the game. She's at least proud I'm on the team, right? I think I got in for like 15 seconds at the end of the game, right? And I was scared that she would come back to a game. So I started going to practice. But that's how, and the rest was history. I'm a competitive guy. So, but I used to hide the basketball underneath this tree, never go. And my mom says, "Hey, I'm coming to the game on Saturday." And that's how I started playing basketball.
That's a great story. Okay, man, we'll do it again soon. I'll have you back on and we'll do another segment together. All right.
Yo, thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks, John.
If you don't buy the Jeff Ward Show merch, dun dun dun, you are a dork.